best thing you've ever seen in your entire life. Do you have anything to add to my short pre-video monologue, MJ?
Fangs of the Gold Cobra, energize. Welcome to the world-famous Jiggy Jaguar radio program, broadcasting live from Hutchinson, Kansas. Call Jiggy right now, 267-22-JIGGY. Presenting Jiggy Jaguar.
Yes, indeed. It is the world-famous Jiggy Jaguar radio broadcast. We are live coast to coast, Boda to Boda, all over the damn place. Get a hold of us online over there at jiggyjaguar.com. We are going to do this. I am going to find our guest for the day and get them in here. I got all sorts of things happening. I got all sorts of people doing all sorts of stuff. I really don't know what the hell's going on here. But we're going to make things happen. JiggyJaguar.com if you want to find me on the Twitter machine, X or whatever the hell it is. I am there. I am doing all sorts of things over on X. I don't like calling it X. I like calling it Twitter because it's the Twitter machine. It's not the X machine. I'm on the X machine, as Vince would say. I'm not on the Twitter machine. I'm on the X machine apparently now, which is fine. Whatever. Jiggy Jaguar is the best spot to see what we are up to. And today we have James D. Eugenio, who is going to be with us. He is going to be joining us here in just a few seconds via the old Skip Skype. I just talked to him about, I don't know what that was, probably 7 minutes ago, maybe. I think that's what I got to talk to him about 7 minutes ago. He is going to be on Skype here in just a few seconds. And he is amazing. So we will be chatting with him here in just a few seconds as soon as I can get him queued up here on Skip Skype. If you want to find our videos, they are uploaded to BitChute, Rumble, Clout Hub, all those various places. And I do love the BitChute commenters. People love the BitChute commenters. They're always fun. Maybe. Maybe they're fun. Maybe they're not fun. I don't know. This is what happens when you don't prep for the show. You have things like this happen. So, the JFK assassination. We are going to be chatting with Mr. D. Eugenio here in just a few minutes. I'm going to get IQ Al Rizzoli.
Hello.
There is IQ Al Rizzoli, the amazing IQ Al Rizzoli, and the amazing Don Mazzella are joining us. I got to get trying to get our guest in here. He is going to be joining us on Skype here in just a few moments to talk about his book on the Kennedy assassination, which was one of the guests that I wanted to have when Don was missing in action. So I rescheduled him so we could have Don and him chat on the show here. But so IQ before yes sir, who walked in behind me? So IQ, what do you think of this hurricane that has pretty much just devastated Florida? A lot of people, I'm seeing a lot of things on the internet where people are like, well, this was done on purpose. This was weather weapons, all sorts of things.
Well, you have the idiots. And in America, you have millions of them, so it's not a problem.
Yes.
It's a disaster of unbelievable magnitude. Millions of people are going to suffer. They will have no home. They will have no future, literally. At least in the immediate time.
Yeah.
So they will need all the help and the sympathy and the empathy of all of America. And I hope they will receive it. Because there's nobody else. I mean, you have the most incompetent administration ever in the history of the United States of America. Incompetent. That's exactly what you have. Incompetence.
Yes.
But the most competent ones now actually are the governor of DeSantis and Trump. I mean, Trump, he's not a president, but he's acting presidential. Literally. What do you think?
Now, what do you think, Don?
I wish people would go back to disaster relief instead of politics. You know that this is the first time in all the years I've covered disasters that the politics has interfered with it. Before, whether Republican or Democratic, the people would come together to get things done. But what do we have today? DeSantis saying stay out of my state, and Kamala.
What in the world? I love it. I love it. I'm going to resume the call. I always love trying to get people on Skype. Okay. The cat's got to go. And that's got to go. Because I've got to be able to figure this out here. I always love this. Okay, here's what I'll do. I'm just going to quit Skype. Just going to quit Skype and bring it back. We'll just do it that way. Criminy. I'll just quit Skype and bring it back. I'll just do it that way. We're going to be chatting with, hopefully, here in a few seconds. We'll go ahead and, I guess, go in here and see what happens, maybe.
Florida to help have been invited by Trump and allowed to stay in his hotel free of charge. Did you know that?
No.
Really?
How come you don't know that?
Hey.
I know it. How is it possible that I know more about what's happening in America than you? I can't believe this.
Hey, I read the New York Times. You ever going to find anything good out of
That's
it?
why you are ill-informed. New York Times is a rag. It's
I
a
have to
A rag.
I feel I have to read the New York Times. You don't.
Honestly, he allowed them to stay in the one of the most remarkable hotels, free of charge, all paid, all food, all drink. Amazing. And they call him a racist.
You know what the New York Times would say? He'll figure some way of writing it off.
Yes. But that's what you expect. Yes, what do you expect from the mentality?
Hello, Jim. How are you, sir?
Okay.
We are attempting to get you on Skype. Your Skype, for whatever reason, is not connecting with us, so I figured I would call you on the telephone.
It's James DiEugenio.
Okay. Well, let me do this. I'll hang up with you and try that again. Okay. Go ahead. IQ. Go ahead and Don keep us abreast here while I try to.
I want to say the New York Times today is featuring two stories. One of them is it looks as if the Republicans will take the Senate, and number two, that the trend is definitely moving towards Trump in key states. Both the Times and the Wall Street Journal had stories about that. And why? What have we been talking about? IQ's been talking about. Blacks and Hispanics are trending towards Trump. And if that happens, the Democratic Party is dead.
I think we've got James. James, can you hear us, my friend?
Yes, I can.
Fantastic. We have got James D. Eugenio with us today. He, of course, has got a fantastic book, The JFK Assassination Chokeholds. And he joins me and Don and IQ today to talk a little bit about this book. So, James, tell us a little bit about the book, and then we're going to have some questions for you.
All right. This book was written with me and 4 co-authors. And it originates, the title comes from a guy that is a very good researcher from England, Malcolm Blunt. And he discovered what the CIA had done with Oswald's file through a researcher named Betsy Wolfe from the HSCA. Her papers were not declassified till 2002. All right, but he found them and he gave them to me, all right, and I wrote about them. And he said, I don't think there's any benign way to explain this. It's so puzzling, okay? So I think it's actually what we should call a chokehold, in the charge of conspiracy. And so that's how we got to this title, okay? And so we chose some other things, like a guy named Matt Crumpton wrote an essay about the 17 impersonations of Oswald before the assassination. Okay, I wrote about the mystery of Kennedy's brain. All right, which I think is a very, very interesting phenomenon that hardly anybody talks about. And that entails the fact that Kennedy's brain officially weighs more than the average, when in fact anybody who watches a Zapruder film or sees all the blood and tissue in the back of the car or sees all the blood and tissue on Jackie Kennedy's suit and watches Jackie Kennedy go out the back of the car, and she later said, I was retrieving part of my husband's brain. And by the way, she brought it to the doctors at Parkland Hospital. Or the motorcycle driver on the left side of Kennedy, who he said, I got splattered with blood and tissue so hard, I thought it was a bullet. Okay? Jesus. And then when he went to the hospital, his cohort said, I think you have part of JFK's brain in your mouth. And he opened, and then it was caught between his teeth. All right? Okay, so how on earth can Kennedy's brain weigh more than the average when it's splattered all over Dealey Plaza in about 3 different directions? Wow. Right? And so then we also talked about the whole thing about CE-399, the magic bullet, how can a bullet get in evidence to FBI headquarters at 8:50 when the FBI technician said he already had it at 7:30? It's right in his notes. Okay. All right. And then we talked about the obstruction of justice. If it's an open and shut case, which is what the Warren report said it was.
Yeah.
Why are they still not letting loose the last 4,000 documents? Okay. Why did Trump back in 2017 delay it for 6 months, then for 3 years, and then Biden, I believe, did something even worse. Yeah. Okay, Biden actually overturned the review board, which was the official body that was supposed to declassify all the documents. Okay, and he now has sent us back basically to a Freedom of Information Act status. If the Freedom of Information Act worked, we wouldn't have needed the review board. So those are some of the things, that we decided to take on to show that, hey, there's just too much suspicion. There's just too many chokeholds, okay, which we cannot explain in a benign way, all right? And there's actually 10 of them. I think I went over about 5.
Don Mazzella, what do you have to start us off here, my friend?
Oh, a lot of questions, but we should also, Jim, I was there.
I remember you. Because I think I've done this show before, and I remember you saying this. You were there on the scene working for a network, right?
Right.
Yes.
Correct. So, and I spent the next 6 to 9 months immersed in So, and I will tell you my bias, okay, before we go any further. You know, when the people at NBC News that I respected all finally came down on the side of saying it was one assassin, one conspirator, I have to go along with it. And in all the years, I'm just saying this. I want to put this so you understand where I'm coming from when we talk about this. In all the years that I've been there, and hard to imagine how many years ago it is now, I have only one question to ask you. Can you put any 2 or 3 conspirators in the same room at the same time? Can you? That's the only question I have. There's a question that was posed to me years ago, and it's one that so far no one has ever been able to say to me, there are 3 conspirators whatever you name in your book, can you name 3 conspirators that were in the same room at the same time before or after the assassination?
All right. Well, this kind of it's called jumping the shark.
Okay. Okay.
I'm sorry, I'm not hearing you. I apologize.
He said it's kind of like jumping the shark. Go ahead, Jim. Go ahead.
Okay.
Break it down for us here, my friend.
Because what we're trying to do is prove a conspiracy. Okay, in the book.
Yes.
Okay, that's what we called it, chokeholds.
Yeah.
We didn't posit what the conspiracy really looked like. Okay. Now, this, of course, is a theoretical question because there's never been a confession from one of the upper level guys, you know, and there has never really been a real investigation by the federal government of the JFK case. But if you believe, as I do, that there was a conspiracy and that it was multi-leveled, okay, it's very hard to argue that Guy Bannister, David Ferry, and Clay Shaw were not in on the conspiracy. And those 3 guys all knew each other, and they were all in the same building at one time, 544 Camp Street. And Oswald actually put that in one of the stupidest things Oswald ever did, and he did a lot of stupid things. He actually put that address on one of the pamphlets he was handing out that summer of 1963 in New Orleans, all right? And the FBI knew how dangerous that address was, okay, to the official story. And so they BS'd about it, and they changed the address in their documents to 531 Lafayette Street. Okay, so they wouldn't reveal that Oswald was at the same building that Guy Bannister had his office at.
Yeah.
All right?
You're inferring something, but let me ask you this question. I guess, and over the years, I don't know how many people have investigated that assassination from every different angle that I can see. The Russians have done it, the Chinese, the English, just about every law enforcement agency in the United States. And they still can't find, you can put 3 people in the same building at the same time, but are they in the same room at the same time? The answer is no. And the conspiracy requires 2 or more people. And if somebody in all that time should have blabbed, I mean, you know, should have left something behind. These people are dying off at a phenomenal rate. Every day I read somebody associated with it has died. Just the other day, the driver of our car, I was just informed, died 3 months ago. The driver that I was sitting next to. I mean, we're at that age where we're dying, including myself. But let me ask you this question: with all these chokeholds, who do you think were the main drivers of the conspiracy?
Okay, we're jumping the shark again.
Okay. Go ahead, James.
All right. He posed two questions there.
Yes. Go ahead.
First of all, there have been people who have talked. Richard K. Snagel and John Martino. And there has been something left behind. The Dear Mr. Hunt letter, okay, that Oswald wrote. Okay, we don't know who he wrote it to. It might have been Howard Hunt. It might have been H.L. Hunt. Okay, we don't know. But there are pieces of evidence that denote that something was going on at the time from people who were there.
Yeah.
All right. Now, you're asking me a speculative question. Since I'm on your show.
I'm asking a hard question. To me, if you got a conspiracy, you got to name who's leading the conspiracy.
Okay. If you press me up against the wall and ask me that question, okay,
I
know you did. That's why I'm answering it. Okay. All right. I would garner that it would be Alan Dulles.
Okay. Why?
Well, number one, okay, Dulles and Kennedy clashed against each other often when he was a CIA director. Okay, was it about the Bay of Pigs, about the Congo, about the threat to overthrow de Gaulle, okay, in France, over the Algeria crisis. And Kennedy finally decided, I got to get rid of this guy, okay? So he ended up firing Alan Dulles, who at that time was the longest serving CIA director there was. And that had been his ambition throughout his life. Then Dulles is according to David Talbot, Dulles is the only guy who actually wanted to be on the Warren Commission. Can you imagine that? Okay, he actually wanted to be on the Warren Commission. All right. And then once he got there, he was the single most active member of that body. All right. And the reason he was is because he was the only guy who didn't have a job. All right. Then after this, he was the most public defender of the Warren Report, even when it was going ahead and eclipsing into a sea of doubt and frustration. All right. Okay. He also was involved in torpedoing Jim Garrison's investigation in New Orleans. Okay, I know this for a fact because I know somebody who knew him at the time, Gordon Novell. All right. Okay. Now, he also organized almost, even though he was fired, he was really running the CIA out of his house in Georgetown because all these guys like Dick Helms and Jim Angleton, etc., were going to visit him at his home. John McCone was an ingenue, and he didn't understand the old boys network going on, okay, with what that Dulles had built for so many years. He was also involved with the Cuban exiles, okay, in 1963, all right? So those are some of my reasons that I believe that if you had to press me, I would say that it was him who was the main organizer of the plot. And he was also, even though he was fired, there's evidence he was at CIA headquarters that day.
Jiggy, could I just say something?
Yes, go ahead, Don. Go ahead.
Don, it's your show.
Yeah, go ahead, Don. Go.
In the third volume of my trilogy, the first volume, which is out, I describe Alan Douglas, a fictionalized version of him. And I explain a lot of what Jim just said in my book.
Okay.
Isn't that amazing?
Okay.
That's amazing. I've written a trilogy, Jim, a historical trilogy. And in the third volume, talks about some of the things you're talking about. It's ironic. But having said that, if you think it's Alan Douglas,
Alan Dulles. Dulles, not Douglas.
Dulles. I said this.
Yes,
Dulles.
yeah.
Well, you said Douglas.
Well, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, James.
My pronunciation.
You're good, James.
I'm sorry,
James. Pick up where you left off, there, my friend. We want to.
It's a darn good choice.
Yes.
If I were doing a conspiracy. But having said all that, and I want to give IQ a chance. Jim, what was the ultimate purpose of these conspirators to kill Kennedy? What did they hope to gain?
Well, it's not what they hoped to gain, what they actually did gain. Okay, when Kennedy was killed, the Dulles and Kennedy were cracking heads over foreign policy. Okay, Kennedy was really kind of advocating for freedom in the third world, like he did with Patrice Lumumba in the Congo. He was supporting Sukarno in Indonesia. All right, he was getting out of Vietnam at the time of his death, and all these and more were all reversed in a matter of months after Kennedy was killed. Okay, and we ended up with the escalation of the Vietnam War. We ended up overthrowing Sukarno in 1965. Okay, we ended up with Congo being more or less recolonized by Belgium and England, after Kennedy was killed. Now, what does that mean? That's not just geographic. What this means is tons of money. Okay, this is why European countries wanted to colonize the third world, is because there was a lot of money in places like Congo and Indonesia. Indonesia had the richest gold mine in the history of the world, really. Okay, and that was taken over by an American company called Freeport-McMoRan. All right, out of Texas. All right, and so there was literally billions of dollars, okay, to be gained by reversing Kennedy's foreign policy, and they did. Just remember this. After his brother was killed, Bobby Kennedy called in a guy named William Walton, who was going on a cultural exchange to Moscow. He said, I want you to delay your trip. I want you to come and see me and Jackie at my home before you leave. All right. And so Walton did. He walked in, and there was Bobby Kennedy and Jackie Kennedy sitting in the dining room waiting for him. And he said, I want you to give this letter to Georgy Bolshakov. He's a friend of mine, and he will forward it to the Kremlin. Okay? And in that letter, he said that because of his brother's death, the détente that him and Khrushchev were seeking will have to be on hold. And this is what he said the reason was. Because Lyndon Johnson is much too close to big business for this to be pursued any further. All right? But I will resign, which he did about 6 months later. All right? I will then run for office, which he did as senator from New York. I will then run for the presidency, which he did. All right? And we can continue this at that time. Well, that never happened, of course, because Bobby Kennedy, like his brother, got his brains blown out at the Ambassador Hotel in Los Angeles. So people on the inside like this understood what was going to happen.
Interesting.
It is very interesting.
I could go on, but IQ, I'm sure.
IQ El Rizzoli, jump in here, my friend. What do you got for James or for Don or anybody here?
I was young at that time, and I was shocked at the death of. Actually, I cried. Believe it or not. I mean, I remember this. When I heard the news, I cried. I loved JFK. He was a tour de force himself. But there is absolutely no doubt in my mind that it was the CIA. Because if I remember correctly, even at that time, if I remember correctly, both JFK and his brother wanted to dismantle the CIA completely. James, correct me if I'm wrong. Am I wrong?
No. Kennedy did fire the top level of the CIA.
He wanted to destroy it completely.
He didn't just fire Dulles, although that's all I said. He also fired the deputy director, Cabell, and he fired the director of plans. That is, the director of operations, which was Dick Bissell. And he assigned Arthur Schlesinger I want you to do a plan for me to reorganize the CIA. And he also cut their budget.
Yeah. So, I mean, they had excellent reasons from their point of view to eliminate him. And it is to do with corruption. It is corruption. Really. It's to do all with money. You're absolutely right, James. It's to do with billions of dollars. And billions of dollars is money, and money is power. And power is what they want.
Thank you.
No, I mean, from my point of view, I'm an outsider looking in.
Hey, Jiggy, I just want to ask one question. We're only selling my book today, aren't we?
Yes. So James, something that I've always wondered, which, you know, I guess I fall into the conspiracy camp on this thing. One of the things that I've always thought was so strange is, like, for instance, with Jack Ruby. Jack Ruby knew exactly where Oswald was going to be coming out from. There were cameras there. No one was there to stop Oswald. And then he just kind of wandered away. And I always have thought that's so strange that, you know, with a presidential assassin, you know, like Oswald, why would you have the hallways, you know, why wouldn't you have the hallways clear? And it just always it was always so strange to me that
that's because you were never a police reporter. If you ever became a police reporter, you'd understand. I'm sorry. You know, they always point out Ruby.
Yeah.
You know, it was there's always hanger-ons at the police station. Well, less of it now than then. But in that time, there were always people around Ruby. And his explanation still makes sense years later. He wanted attention.
He did not want Jackie to cry at a trial? That was his excuse for killing Oswald?
His as good as any. Look,
as good as any.
I wanted to spare Jacqueline the horror of the trial. I mean, that's what he gave as the reason. And you know, I'm sorry. You're trying to get monumental theories out of relatively simple people. Well, we see it time and time again here. People that want fame by somehow doing something. You have a conspiracy because they killed John Lennon. I mean, I'm sorry, I can't. In all the years, and what is it now? 60-odd years.
61.
Well, 61 years. I'm at my age, things get fuzzy, but you know what? No one has come forward and said, "Here's the theory." I mean, we can go back and
and that's
Queen Elizabeth had a secret. What? I'm sorry.
That's something else that I want to talk about with this.
Can I address the Jack Ruby?
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Go ahead, because
we have a
go
chapter
ahead, baby.
in the book. We have a chapter in the book on Jack Ruby.
Okay.
And I think it's important to make some things clear about this.
Okay.
First of all, the Warren Commission lied about how Jack Ruby got into the basement. He did not come down the Main Street ramp. And the House Select Committee on Assassinations said it is much more likely that he came in from the back door, and he was led in by one of the Dallas police, because the Western Union station that Ruby was at, that he was mailing some money to one of his girls, that is directly across the street from the back end of the Dallas Police Department. All right. And that is most likely how he got in. All right. Now, secondly, when you listen to the original...
Can I stop you right there?
No, I'm not done yet.
As a police reporter, I could get into almost any police department on my beat. They all knew me. They knew who I was.
Jack Ruby was not a reporter.
They would let me in.
Jack Ruby wasn't a reporter.
All right. Okay, now, if you listen to the NBC broadcast
of
the shooting of Oswald,
Yes.
Now, not any other broadcast, because NBC had the main lead on that.
Oh yeah.
Now, if you go to the original broadcast, and how do I know this? Because somebody called me up once and said, "Which version of Ruby shooting Oswald do you have?" And I go, "What do you mean, which version?"
Wow.
Do you have the no-horn version? Do you have the one-horn version?
Which version?
Or do you have the two-horn version? And I go, "Well, of course I have the one-horn version." Because then you have the edited version, Jim. I'll send you the original version. And so he sent it to me. And we put it in our movie, JFK Revisited. Now, if you watch this, it's really, really weird. Because the second Oswald comes out to the foyer, a horn goes off.
Yeah.
All right? Then the second before Ruby jumps forward to kill Oswald, a second horn goes off. Okay? Now, before Don jumps down my throat, I'm not saying that this indicates that there was like a I'm not saying that at all. But I am saying, why have the networks edited that original cut? Okay? All right? Now,
we did not edit.
I didn't say you did. I said other people did.
Oh, wait a second. Now you're talking to me, because that's me. I mean, I'm NBC.
This is entertaining.
You're
I'm
NBC.
the crew.
You're
I'm
David
the crew.
Sarnoff.
That's right.
And I will tell you that we went live with that. We were live with that.
I know that. I just said it. Okay.
This
All
is
right.
terribly entertaining.
So how could you edit? How could you edit a live broadcast?
I didn't say that. I said other people have edited since to erase those horns. Okay.
But you can still go and see the original any number of places. You can still go see the original.
I didn't even know it had been edited. That's what I'm trying to say. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Now, hold. I'm not done
Okay,
with this.
okay.
Because there's even more intrigue. What?
No, go ahead. I just had something else I wanted to
night
talk to you about with
before
this, but go
Ruby
ahead.
Killed Oswald. Lee Harvey Oswald tried to make a phone call. This is on Saturday night.
Okay.
He filled out the form. He gave it to the secretary. The secretary passed it to the Secret Service. The Secret Service vetoed the phone call. The secretary put it in the trash. Another secretary who saw her put it in the trash fished it out. Okay. Oswald was trying to call a guy named John Hurt in North Carolina. First of all, how on earth did Oswald even know a guy in North Carolina? he was outside the so-called Nags Head base in North Carolina.
Okay.
All right. And that base in 1961, 62, 63 was used as a jumping off point for the ONI, Office of Naval Intelligence, to ship defectors to Eastern Europe and the Soviet Union.
Okay.
Now, let me ask you this. Is it just a coincidence that on Saturday night, Oswald is trying to get in contact with a military intelligence officer, and the next morning, okay, he's murdered? I don't think so. I believe what happened is that when Oswald was not killed at the Texas Theater, which I believe was the original plan, okay, I believe, and by the way, it's just not me, a CIA officer said this himself, when Oswald tried to make that call, he was more or less signing his death warrant. I believe the CIA got in contact with Trafficante at that point, who they had worked with in the plots to kill Castro. And then Trafficante got in contact with Louis McWillie, who was, and if you can read this, I think it's in FBI reports, Ruby idolized Louis McWillie. He would do anything for Lou. He even visited him in Cuba when he was managing, I think, one of Trafficante's big casino hotels.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's how I believe. That's in a rough, we can go on this for hours.
Well,
but,
yeah.
In a rough estimate, that's what I believed happened with the shooting of Oswald.
Well, one of the things that I've always thought is so strange, and to kind of piggyback on what Don was saying earlier, with the whole thing of, all these years, there's all these people that are in this, you know, world, this JFK assassination world. A lot of these guys have not talked. A lot of these guys have not said anything. And I compare that to some of the other things that have happened over the last, God, seems like 20 years, maybe even 10 years. For instance, when they did the Oklahoma City bombing, Timothy McVeigh immediately starts talking, and then all of a sudden, amazingly, he shuts up. You had the pilots on 9/11 who were sent up to take the shot, and they went on 60 Minutes or whatever, like 2 or 3 months after 9/11. Not even 2 or 3 months, and basically admitted, yeah, we went up and shot the planes down, and that whole story of the people on the plane, you know, fought back against the terrorists and they downed the plane. That was always just total bullshit. Because the 2 pilots were sent up to get those planes because they didn't want the plane reaching the White House or reaching Washington. And they were like told to shoot them down over a field. The thing that gets me, James, is that all this stuff, all these conspiracies and all these things, like for instance with the 9/11, that all fell apart after a month. Whereas Lee Harvey Oswald, JFK, all this stuff, all these guys have kept shut up all these years. Why is it that a lot of these guys have just not talked?
Well, as I said, I disagree with that.
Okay.
There's 2 lower levels guys who did talk.
Yeah.
Richard K. Snigel and John Martino.
Yeah.
Now let me explain the case of James Angleton.
Okay. Yes. Because
Right.
I want to know all the details on this thing, baby.
During the church committee hearings
Okay.
of 1975, which was the only real investigation of the crimes of the CIA.
Yeah.
All right. He made a very, very interesting comment when somebody asked him about the Kennedy assassination.
Okay.
Now, I'm not saying this is verbatim, but it's pretty close to what he said.
Well, yeah.
Now, listen carefully. A mansion has many rooms. I was not privy to who struck John. Now, if you can find a more suspicious statement, okay, by a high-level guy in the CIA about that, okay, now, that's not the only thing. Later on, a memo leaked out, okay, from James Angleton to Richard Helms, all right?
Okay.
That memo said that under this constant investigation, we must find a cover story to explain why Howard Hunt was in Dallas on the day of the Kennedy assassination.
Okay.
All right. Now, well, you know what makes that so interesting is that Hunt was not even under James Angleton. Okay.
Okay.
It's almost like Angleton, who was probably the control agent for Oswald, is trying to get the CIA to cover up for him by threatening the other half of the Central Intelligence Agency.
Okay.
All right. Okay. Now I could go further with this, but those are some very incriminating statements, okay, that have been made by, directly. If now let me qualify that. If the memo was real, okay, we don't know that for sure. Most people seem to think it is real, because Angleton actually showed it to somebody, a guy named Joe Trento,
Yeah.
a reporter from back east.
Yeah.
All right. So, in my opinion, if you take a look at this evidence, I think it's all very, very incriminating.
Don,
By the way, I
go ahead.
disagree that the Warren Commission report was being discredited within months. Okay. Mark Lane, in about 20 days, put out a critique of the official story. Of course, the Warren report wasn't published at that time.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the official story that Oswald did it by himself.
But you've got to understand the tremendous pressure to come out with a reason. The nation was in shock, absolute shock. I mean, we had a group of people from West Virginia call up and say they wanted to change the name of the state to Kennedia because that's where he had his first victory.
Wow. That I did not know.
No, it's true. They actually had a petition. I always remember that. But you
That
know,
is amazing.
you got to understand where the nation
Kennedia.
was at that point. In shock. I mean, total shock. I'll tell you, we had, at NBC, we had plans for the funeral and the death of so many people. We didn't have a plan for Kennedy's death. We never expected it. Well, neither did the other networks. And you're sitting there saying, there's a memo there. The Kennedy Commission was under tremendous pressure. NBC spent almost $4 million in 1962 dollars duplicating everything for that at the mall. $4 million building a set in Somerset, New Jersey, just to duplicate what happened. Could Oswald have shot Kennedy? And they got sharpshooters in there. They got Marine sharpshooters. They had police. People were trying. You know, one of the big things, I don't know where you have it in your book, that he couldn't have shot the 3 or 4 shots in a time frame. Well, we proved it time after time that you could shoot that rifle in that time. I'm very anxious to read your book, Jim, but but over the years I simply come back to 2 points: show me 2 conspirators in the same room, and show me somebody that admitted after 60 years that they did it. And
I thought I answered both those questions, but let me answer what he just said.
Yes, go ahead, baby. Go ahead.
Look, the reason Mark Lane wrote his petition, is that he wasn't in shock. He just decided that, wait a minute, why did the doctors at Parkland Hospital say Kennedy was hit from the front when in fact Oswald had to be behind him? That's what puzzled him. How could a guy from behind shoot Kennedy from the front? Because this is what Malcolm Perry said 3 times during that day's press conference at Parkland Hospital, that the entrance wound in the throat had all the appearances to him of being a front shot. Now, this gets even worse, because that night, remember, I'm talking about that night of the assassination.
Yes.
He was phoned from Bethesda Medical Center, where the autopsy was taking place. The doctors during the autopsy had heard what he said during the day. They tried to talk him out of his story that night.
Because he was wrong.
All right? And
because he was wrong.
Can
5 different pathologists
can I speak
over the years.
Go ahead, James. Go ahead, my friend. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
No, you're good, Don. Go ahead, James. Jump in there.
He said, look, I saw the thing up close. I'm a hunter. I know the way entrance wounds look in a body. So I wasn't going to go ahead and denounce what I said that morning. Although he did later on, under constant pressure from Arlen Specter. Now, let me, about this testing that he talks about.
Go ahead, my friend.
I would really like to know how NBC succeeded, but CBS failed to duplicate what Oswald had done. And let me explain what I mean by this.
Okay, go ahead.
In 1967, when CBS spent all this tons of money producing their 4-hour special endorsing the Warren Commission report, they decided to go ahead and hire one of the best snipers in America, the military guy. Put him out on the range, explained, well, this is what Oswald was supposed to have done, and we want to see if you can do it. All right?
And it could.
He tried He tried 3 times, okay, and he couldn't do it. And he explained to the CBS producer that, well, Oswald must have been a very lucky guy to have done this in 6 seconds. So you know what CBS did? Do you know what excuse me if I get a little agitated about this.
Go ahead, baby.
Do you know what those lying pieces of baloney did? I don't want to say baloney, but I don't want to say anything else.
What's up,
okay.
baby?
Do you know what they did? They enlarged the target. They enlarged the target for the test they showed on TV. They made it twice the size of what Kennedy's head and shoulder area really was. Now, how do I know this? Because I know Don's going to ask me this. Okay, how do I know this? Because Roger Feynman, who was a producer at CBS, protested what they did. And he wrote memos to the upper division of CBS. Okay, and you know what he got for his protest? You can probably guess, can't you?
He was fired.
He got fired, okay, for his protest. But he managed to spirit out the memos, okay? And I knew Roger, okay? And I did an article based on his memoranda to CBS. So this is the kind of media we have in this country. You know,
can I address that? Can I address that very issue?
Go ahead, jump in there, Don. Go ahead, baby.
Okay, go ahead.
A sniper is taught to inhale. Okay, and what the sniper failed to do is eliminate the inhale. Every time he took a shot, and the reason I know that is because 2.5 years later, we sat down, NBC, CBS, ABC, and trying to figure out what the hell, why we had such differing results. And I'll never forget Ed Newman, who did the show for NBC, sat there at I'm trying to remember what restaurant it was. We sat there, and he showed them what the CBS sniper did wrong, what the ABC sniper did wrong, and what NBC did right. And he showed it. I was there in the room, and I saw that. And Feynman was in the room at that time too. And still, after he saw the film from the networks, he still said what he did. I know. I don't know him as well as you do. And I think, didn't he die?
Yes, he passed away a few years ago.
Yeah, I think. I'm sorry. I know about that. It's always been. It was a bone of contention between NBC and CBS with that whole group of guys, which I was fortunate to be. And let me put it out to you. I was a copy boy, the lowest of the low, the guy that carried the coffee. I want you to understand that. I wasn't one of these big shots. I was the guy that sat around most of the time and listened. And I, by the way, had for many years, and I wish I'd kept it, a complete copy of the Warren Report. Complete.
Don, can I ask you a question? So you're saying because the sniper didn't inhale, that's why the experiment failed?
No. Because the sniper, are you familiar with a sniper is told to inhale before they shoot? And then I believe I shot a lot of other. Skype today, inflation falls to 2.4. Again, we were all that shit came across we were all encouraged to take a shot, okay? And try. And believe me, we shot an awful lot of ammunition off of that Somerset County location. It was fun. I came home, I was still in college at the time, and man, I was a big shot on campus. But Jim, I understand where you're coming from, and I believe that there is room for doubt. It's just that increasingly I'm one of the last people to be involved in that for NBC, and it's scary. But I really feel you put a lot of good facts together, and I'm not denying it. But remember what Talleyrand said: two people that know a conspiracy is one too many.
Can I add something about NBC here?
Yes, go ahead, baby.
Okay,
Go ahead.
about the company he was serving coffee for. Okay.
That's awesome.
On the night that the Warren Report was issued.
Yes.
Now remember, it's 888 pages long. Okay. On that very night, Frank McGee posted a special with support from Tom Pettit, okay, endorsing the Warren Commission without any qualifications. Now, here's my question. How can any human being outside of Evelyn Wood read 888 pages, okay, in a day and then put together a show about it?
I can answer that one. And funny you mentioned Frank McGee, because we had a copy of the report 2 weeks before.
Okay, so it was leaked to you. Okay.
Oh, it was given to us under embargo. It was given to CBS, NBC, ABC under embargo, the New York Times, and two other publications. I want to say it's the Chicago Tribune, but there were two others. We all had copies. For 2 weeks, man, the money I made in those 2 weeks as in overtime, it bought my wife's engagement ring, my first wife's engagement ring.
Wait a minute. Are you saying you
true.
actually read the Warren Report in 2 weeks?
Oh, well, we could do a lot more. I've been a newsman for a long time, and we're all used to it. And Frank, but let me answer the other question. Frank McGee, until he read the report, believed there was a conspiracy. I will tell you categorically, because I sat with him. I worked with him. Okay, I can tell you stories about Frank if we were off the air. But
okay. That's the most entertaining part of this interview. Go ahead, Don.
He was a newsman's newsman. He was thoughtful. He was a very erudite man, and until about 2 days before, the script originally read. However, I had doubts, and Bill McAndrew, who was vice president, head of NBC News at the time, sat Frank down and Ed Newman down and said, "What are we going to say?" And they both came down on saying, "We accept it. Whether we have our doubts, we're not going to give doubts."
Can I make an objection?
Go ahead. Go ahead, James. Go, baby.
Now, Don, now listen to this. You said you had the Warren Report 2 weeks in advance, right? That's what you said. Well, here's the problem with that. The Warren Report has something like 5,700 footnotes to it. All right? And all the footnotes are to, well, not all, but most of them are to the 26 volumes. Now, how can any person read the 26 volumes in 2 weeks?
Well, we didn't. But again, how can anybody read the Pentagon Papers in 2 weeks?
Well, that's only 4 volumes.
We did the best we could. We read.
Don, you're avoiding the question. Did you have the 26 volumes?
Well, I'm trying to remember. Well, we sure had an awful lot of it. We did not have it as volumes. We had it as papers. They hadn't even finished the binderies. If you saw we were on the I think it was the 7th floor. I don't know which floor at Rockefeller Center. We had 7 or 8 offices, at least 7 or 8 offices, 4 secretaries. There were 1, 3, 4, probably 8 news writers. McGee, Merrill, Frank Blair. Do you remember Frank Blair? Because
yes, I do.
Blair was going to do. The first report was going to come out from on a Today Show, which Frank Blair was the reader. And there's one other on-air person. I'm sorry if I'll probably remember when we get off the air. And we spent hours looking through that stuff. But don't forget, they also gave us briefing papers. What they wanted to see. Have you ever seen a news organization pull apart a report? Well, I have 3 or 4 times, and I was proud. The money I made those 2 weeks, unbelievable. What I made in overtime because we were all union. I went to work as a reporter for the Newark News 2 years later for half the money I was making at the NBC News.
Okay, can I ask a question?
Go.
All right, Don.
Yeah. Yes.
Did you interview Sylvia Odio?
What?
Did you interview Sylvia Odio?
Who?
You don't even know who she is. Okay. Sylvia Odio was a daughter of a Cuban exile leader who was living in the Dallas-Fort Worth area around the time of the assassination. 3 men came and knocked on her door late in September of 1963. 2 Cuban exiles named Angel and Leopoldo, and the third guy was named Leon Oswald. All right. They were trying to pump her for money, okay, for the Cuban exile cause, but she said, I'm not, my father's in prison on the Isle of Pines, so I don't have access to any money. Her sister was also there, Annie Odio. All right. In 48 hours, Leopoldo called her back and said, that Leon Oswald guy is kind of loco. He says we should have killed Kennedy after the Bay of Pigs, but we don't have enough guts to do such a thing. All right, now that's late September of 1963. On the day of the assassination, when Oswald's picture came on screen, Sylvia Odio fainted because that was the guy who was at her door. All right, and she had to be taken to the hospital. All right, now, when the Warren Commission knew about her, when Wesley Liebler interviewed Sylvia Odio down in Dallas, he said to her, we've been instructed by Earl Warren. Even if we find evidence of conspiracy, we're supposed to brush it under the rug. Gayton Fonzie, who was working for the church committee, his mouth flew open and he said, Liebler really said that? And she goes, I'd swear on a stack of Bibles under oath that that's what he told me. Now, how could you possibly... Wait, I'm not done. Will you stop interrupting?
No, I was trying to... Did you say West Point? What did you say? Interviewer?
Wesley Liebler.
He was one of the attorneys on the Warren Commission. Now, how could you possibly know that story at that time?
I didn't.
Okay.
No,
well, don't you think it's
the first I've ever heard about this is what you just said right now.
Go ahead, read my book. Don't just read yours, read mine. Okay.
I love this. Well, as we wrap up here, let's start with IQ Alrizzoli. IQ, what did you think of today's show, and how do we get your stuff, my friend?
Amazing and entertaining, but I'm not shocked. Honestly, I'm not shocked at all that the corruption in the United States of America and the complete failure of law and order is not shocking to me, as you know.
Yes.
James, I wish you the best. I hope you have a very successful book.
Thank you so much.
I honestly enjoyed whatever you had between you and Don. Very entertaining. Very informative.
Maybe me and Don should go on the road, huh?
You should go on the road, honestly.
That's right.
It was
That's right.
Very good. Really very good.
That is amazing. Don Mazzella, how do we get your book, and what did you think of today's show?
Wait a minute. How do you get his book?
Well, I have to go and get Jim's book and read it.
Yes.
But Ruler of the Seas is my book.
Yep.
The third volume, Jim touched on it before. It's funny. Well, if he reads my third volume, he'll see a lot of familiar figures in there, people, characters. But as you know, we paused the Small Business Digest while I get better.
Yep.
I'm only doing this show, and I look forward to reading Jim's book.
Yes. Okay, so James, wrap it up here, my friend. Talk to us a little bit about how we can communicate with you online, buy your book, and what you thought of today's show, my friend.
All right. I have a website called kennedysandking.com.
Okay.
Okay. Which does research and articles, and excerpts of new books. The book, The JFK Assassination Chokeholds, you can get online at Amazon, Barnes & Nobles, Abbey Books, etc. And it's available right now in Kindle, in hardcover, and in paperback. And it's going to be coming out in an Audible version very, very, very soon. All right. Let me make one last statement about the book.
Yes, go ahead, my man.
What we tried to do was base it on the new information released by the review board, okay, which I believe was ignored by the MSM, okay? And so that's what we based the book on. And also the fact that, both Trump and Biden are still obstructing justice to this very day, 61 years after Kennedy was killed. All right, if it's an open and shut case, why are there still 4,000 documents still closed to the public?
There you go.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Don. Thank you, IQ. Thank you, Jiggy.
Yes.
All right.
This has been terribly entertaining. I hope we can do this again. James, good luck with the book, my friend.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Don. Thank you, IQ. And we'll talk to everybody next week on our big broadcast as we move forward here. And lots of things happening, as they say. I don't know what to say. No one knows what to say. And peace and chicken grease. We got more coming up next week.